Mission Impossible is very easily one of my favorite franchises ever made, and it's not even really that close. And the whole thing has been that up until this point, we've seen this team that comes back and a few members change, but Tom Cruise leading this team as Ethan Hunt. And Tom Cruise is spectacular. Every stunt has been bigger than the last. And while I might rank the stunts in a different order than the films, they have all been spectacular stunts. And you sit there and go, oh my God. So how does The Final Reckoning stand up in this franchise as a way to say goodbye? It is really tough. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't think a lot of franchises know what they're doing. They don't end well. You know, they don't always have the perfect ending. They really worked hard at this though. And I think in the end, everyone's going to be happy. But I'm going to tell you, the first 20 minutes of the film, I could cut it out of the film and not miss it. I think it sets up a lot of things, and it certainly is a reference to everything that's come before it. But it's not my favorite thing. And even the first third of the film is a lot of setup that doesn't feel like it works to me. I think the script in particular, it's exposition heavy. There's a lot of explaining. There's a lot of like, gee, look at this, and do you remember that, and that kind of thing. And it doesn't work for me. My wife saw it with me, and she loved the film. And she loved it for what it is, which is a fun action adventure. And it's Tom Cruise up on the screen doing crazy stunts. For that, it is amazing. But if you want to dig a little deeper and think about it another way, for me, as a completion to this franchise, I wish that they'd worked out the kinks in the script and the problems in the beginning, where they're like showing a lot of flashbacks. Like, there are more flashbacks in this film than I've seen in most films, even compared to Marvel and other things. And that doesn't work for me. It seems like it's like trying to set it up for audience members who haven't seen the other films, which fine, but I think coming into this film, you should have seen the other films. And I would recommend a rewatch of the last one, but it's really not necessary because a lot of this is, again, you're working with the MacGuffin, what various MacGuffins may be, if you want to think of it, but they're working towards an end that you don't necessarily need to know a lot about. The thing, though, that for me makes it more meaningful is that as an audience member, a franchise lover who's stepped in from the first film and has watched everything, you're invested in this team and these people and these characters and the cast. And that's what makes this a great ending, because in the end, I think they set everything up for everyone to have their moment and then Tom Cruise to do unbelievable stunts. And that works. That works really well. And the film is so much fun to see how much fun they can have on set, it seems. I mean, it must be a ton of work, obviously, but they obviously also still have a lot of fun with this. The middle part is where things get moving. And it's, again, not my favorite, but they do make things start there that we kind of didn't feel from the beginning, maybe. And, you know, Trammell Tillman stepping on screen, the second he's on screen, he's spectacular. He is my favorite character in this film, which I think is saying something because there's a lot of key characters and a lot of great people. But he is amazing. He has a couple key scenes with Ethan, basically, and you know, the dynamic between Tom and him, it's fun, it's playful, and that's the mood of the entire film. And he kind of lifts up that mood because a lot of this film is dead serious. It is very serious stuff. And, you know, end of the world kind of climactic stuff. Biggest threat we've ever seen to the world with Ethan fighting to persevere. And so when we get to that middle section where, you know, all the pieces are in motion, Trammell steps in and he's just like playful serious. I don't know how else to put it. And that's kind of the mood that we get from Tom Cruise as well. There's not as much playfulness as we've maybe seen in other films from him, but there's a few fun, goofy moments. I'm going to call them goofy for lack of a better word. It almost feels like farce or something at a few points. There's a scene that we've seen in the trailer, the plane scene with the biplanes. And, you know, that scene, I think, has a few moments that really feel like farce, almost like the villain should be twirling his mustache or something. But all of that said, the third part is where everything flies. It is amazing once everything's in motion, once everything's happening. I absolutely adored the finale of this film. And while the final moment doesn't quite work out perfectly to me, I think it does say goodbye to Ethan Hunt in a way that definitely makes sense. And it's the parting of this team going off their separate ways kind of thing. And I'm not going to spoil it because, you know, I think everyone needs to go into this having a chance to experience the roller coaster ride of emotions themselves. But I will say I think it could have been a bit more emotionally invested. But it certainly is a great ending. And to say goodbye to Ethan Hunt and this team and this franchise in this way, I think they nailed it. I definitely don't think it's perfect, but they nailed the goodbye. And I think that's kind of key in any franchise that, you know, how will people walk away from it and will they remember it fondly? And I do think walking away from this film, people are going to remember it fondly. The stunts are the key to that, certainly, and that final section of the film. But wow. I have to say that at the end of the day, I'm still a huge Mission Impossible fan. And I kind of hope this isn't the very end, but I think it would be good if this is the end for now. And maybe in a few years, if there's good invested people interested in carrying on that torch, that would be a different thing. I do think, though, it's a great goodbye to Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt, and I hope that if it continues in some James Bondy way or something, that I hope that it's in a new direction some way with a dedicated team like this. Because in the end, the team that made this for so many years is why this franchise ends so strongly. And McQuarrie and, you know, Cruise working together to make this as big as possible, that's why it worked. And I hope that someday we get more Mission Impossible from a team even half as dedicated as they were with this franchise. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know once you've seen the film what you thought of it. I'd love to hear your feedback. We're all going to have a different response to this film, and that's just part of the conversation. I think it's an amazing film to talk about because I've already talked to a few other press and journalists, and we've all had kind of different takes on this. So love to hear your thoughts. Maybe in a week or two, I will do a more spoilery review and we'll talk a little deeper about this film.